Hi guys, welcome back to the channel here. It's been a big 24 hours, of course, in the footy world, as it always is. And today, I thought, basically on that, we're going to have a look some of the biggest contract and trade stories for the Fremantle Footy Club ahead of the 2025 season and into the trade period for 2026. Of course, there's plenty of players that are out of contract at our club and at other clubs as well. And the main news that has come out over the past 24 hours, Kosi Pickett, the Melbourne small forward, 36 goals for the Demons in 2024, is supposedly keen to play for Freo in 2026. He's got a lot of connections at the club, a lot of family connections to WA. He tried to get to Freo at the back end of 2024, but Melbourne basically said no, as they're entitled to do. He's contracted until 2027. But I'll get up, there's a West Australian article here. So I'll read this here. Melbourne star Kosi Pickett looks set to join Fremantle after the 2025 season, sources have told. What the West Australian comes after the Demons' premiership forward had been linked to a move home to WA, but ultimately remained at the club. He's supposedly now desperate to return to WA despite being contracted until the end of 2027. Sources have told the West that a lot would have to go wrong for Pickett to not end up in purple next season, and that signing the 23-year-old is currently a high priority for the Dockers. So there you go. So we're in January. We've barely hit the new year, and we've already got trade story for 2026 in the headlines. So I like this. Look, obviously we've just brought in Shea Bolton over the recent trade period. So the addition of Kosi Pickett to that, you add those two players at the lineup, it's a very dangerous squad. I think we can all agree about that. Now, whether this trade gets done, as I said, Melbourne, they could easily say no again, but I think I think they might drop off even more than they did last year in 2025. So as to whether they'll be that keen to keep these players, I'm not too sure. But as I said, he's only 24, so it's not like he's only got a certain amount of footy left. He's got a lot of good footy. I said at the end of last season, I thought Warner and Pickett, you add those two guys into the side, and Freo are the best team in the comp. You've added Bolton, who is sort of, I feel like, a mixture between both players. I think he can play the midfield role, he can play midfield minutes. He can also kick, multiple goals a game as a small medium forward. So it's going to be interesting to see where Bolton plays. And I think if Bolton plays a lot more midfield in 2025, I think that's probably going to be a bit of a hint as to where the main sort of target for Freo is. Now, as I said, Pickett is not the only player that Freo have expressed an interest in. The other, of course, being Chad Warner. So Chad Warner is out of contract at Sydney at the end of 2025, and there has been a lot of talk that he could request a trade back home to WA. Both WA clubs are very keen, with the Swans, of course. They're going to absolutely throw everything they've got at trying to keep Chad Warner on the books. Now, the big question that a lot of people have thrown around recently is whether Freo actually need Chad Warner. I think you look at our midfield already, Brayshaw, Young and Sarong, plus many of others, of course, with Sharp playing and O'Driscoll on the wings there. Then you got Reid and now Bolton as well. Is he really needed? I think a player like Chad Warner is always needed. He's a star player, make any team better. But the other, obviously, issue around this is our pick haul. If Warner's happy to go to either club, West Coast have the hauls to get it done. And whereas Pickett, it seems like Freo is the only club he's really keen to get to. So therefore, we're in much better position for that. The other main contract story for the club heading into 2025, Andrew Brayshaw is out of contract at the end of 2025. He is a free agent. I don't see him going anywhere. You've seen his brother Hamish say on Backchat that he's not going anywhere. He wants to be a one-club player. He wants to win a flag at the club. But you never know, with the salary cap, he could get lowballed with the contract offer, and therefore that's a disaster because if you get lowballed, we saw what happened with Schultz. It wasn't the greatest salary offering. He decided to leave. Same with Akers and Logue as well. As I said, I don't see Brayshaw going anywhere, but he's going to demand a high price. And Warner, as we know, is probably going to be one of the most high-paid players on his new contract, no matter which club he ends up playing for. Our salary cap squeeze is pretty tight. You've got Young on a massive deal. You've got Bolton's obviously just came in. Sarong is going to look for an even bigger deal, I think. And Tracy and Amis are on pretty big deals as well now. So the salary cap squeeze is tight. Now, Pickett, it seems as though he's going to require a bit less than Warner. Your small forwards are usually you're not going to be paying your small forwards as much as you're going to be paying your star midfielders. So that's where the advantage comes in there for Kosi, Pickett. And as I said, the Eagles, they got their hands full as well. Harley Reid's going to demand at least $1.5 million a year, and Warner is going to be demanding $800K minimum, probably $1 million a year as well. So it's not like the Eagles don't have their issue with the salary as well, but I think they're going to be the sort of team that would move heaven on earth to get Warner more than we will, because the Eagles, they got Reid as a star midfielder, and then I feel like they're a bit bare. Kelly is, I think he's 30 now, and hasn't really started as much as they would have hoped. They got Hewitt. His injuries is restraining him a little bit, and they got Allen and Jimby, but I don't think that they're very different players to Chad Warner. So I think the Eagles, they're going to really try and they'll spend half their salary cap on those two. To be honest, they just cleared Jack Darling off the books. That was $800K a year as well. That's why I think with the debate, a lot of people are saying Pickett is probably better fit than Warner, because he's probably going to be less in terms of draft picks and in terms of salary. And that's the thing I was going to talk about as well with the picks. So next year we've got our own first round pick, which hopefully will be pretty low, but if it's not, then obviously it puts us in a very good position. Second round pick, we've got Richmond's third round pick, which is expected to be at the start of the third round, and our own third round pick, our own fourth round pick. Now Sydney, they're going to be trading on a little bit different currency to everyone else. They got two or three very good academy players projected to go in the top 20. And for them, second rounders, third rounders, they're pretty valuable when it comes to those sorts of guys. So you don't necessarily need to pay, the two or the three firsts or whatever you can. You can trade 2 years into the future, of course. Now, with Melbourne, they supposedly have the same. They have a young kid by the name of Kalani White, who could play for Melbourne due to being the son of Jeff White, who started his career at Fremantle. And he could also play for the Gold Coast due to being through their academy. So he's got a decision to make there. If he does pick Melbourne, then they are in the same spot as Sydney with the trading on a bit of a different currency, because Melbourne have traded out their first round pick, so they do need points, probably more than Sydney do, to be honest. So that comes into Melbourne probably. So Kalani White selecting Melbourne is probably a good thing for us, because they're going to probably demand. Well, they aren't going to need as much. They'll demand it. They won't need it. Is the way with Pickett and Melbourne there. And as I said, West Coast, they've got 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks next year. And they'll pay probably all of them if they want to try and get Chad Warner across. They'll do whatever. They'll outbid us. Whatever we bid for Warner, they'll outbid us. That's pretty clear. And we've seen, they paid a premium price to get Tim Kelly across, and he was uncontracted. So we know the Eagles can pay up in that sort of way. So Pickett, and that's the thing, Pickett, he only wants Freo. Warner, we don't know. And I prefer the players that they say, I want to go to Fremantle, I don't want to go anywhere else. And that's what we've got here with Pickett. Bolton, he seemed, reasonably happy to go to either club, but he really only wanted Freo. That seemed to be the case. And the Eagles were never really that interested anyway. So the big debate here, obviously, if we can get, there's no guarantee we get either Pickett or Warner. But for the sake of it, we're going to say that we have the choice. Do we take Warner or Pickett? Now, as I said, a lot of this depends on where players, not just Bolton, whether he plays in the midfield or whether he plays as a small high half forward, but also players like Cooper Simpson and Murphy Reid, who sort of have the similar abilities and can play a sort of similar role as to if they can break into the team, where and when they're going to play as well. Because we saw this last year. Logan McDonald was supposedly the player that Fremantle were chasing. They've been chasing him for a while. They stocked up on first round picks. But the emergence of Josh Tracy meant he wasn't really needed anymore. We pivoted towards Shai Bolton. So that could be the case here. If a player like Cooper Simpson or Murphy Reid, and according to Josh Tracy, Murphy Reid apparently is, forming into, playing the sort of high half forward, small forward role. So if either Simpson or Reid does that this year and fills the sort of role, I think Simpson's more likely to, because he's kicked a couple of bags in the waffle already. So if Simpson comes in and does that, I think it's going to be another case here where we're going to decide that Pickett's no longer a need, and then we'll have to pivot elsewhere. Maybe we pivot to the back line, or maybe we just go to the draft. But with Warner, I think we've got too many options that can play mid. We've already got the emergence of Young, I think, has made this a little bit more interesting, because Hayden Young, I think, he's got the ability to be that goal-scoring mid. We need a goal-scoring midfielder. Chad Warner is it. I think he scored pretty much the same amount of goals as Shai Bolton did last year, and he plays more forwards. So if you want a goal-scoring mid, Warner is it. But I think Young can do that. We saw a bit of that in the back half of last season. Kicked a couple of goals on the run from from outside 50, which, looking back at the Hayden Young we drafted, didn't really see that in him. He seemed more like a half-back that can play man-to-man as well. But if Young morphs into that goal-kicking forward, then Warner's the need for Warner might not be there as well. And we know Bolton, if he plays more midfield minutes, which I think will happen, that's going to be the case as well. So Bolton, we've got the flexibility with Bolton, and then players like Simpson and Reid, they're going to emerge. Well, hopefully they will. They'll develop, they'll emerge into their sort of roles. I think the goal for Freo now is they're saying it's a priority to bring Pickett, but we thought it was a priority to bring across Logan McDonald. That didn't happen. What the plans are now are going to be very different to what the plans are at the end of this season. Depending on what sort of pick haul we have, if we finish outside the top 8, we've got which we don't want to, obviously, but we would then have the haul to bring in anyone that we want. Whereas if we win the premiership, of course, it's going to be pretty tough, but as I said, you can trade 3 years in advance. But I believe in order to pass AFL draft rules, Freo actually need to take a first-round pick into this year's draft to get 2 across 4 years. So we can trade our 2026 and 2027 first-round picks, and because it's 2027, that's the first draft that Tassie are going to be in. So I think teams are going to be throwing picks around like candy in 2027. But we can trade 2026, 2027. We can't touch 2025. So that's and neither of these clubs might need a first-round pick in 2025 anyway. So that could be a benefit. Comment down below whether you'd prefer Warner or Pickett at the club. I'm in the camp of I'm willing to wait. I want to see where Bolton fits in, because we don't really know. We don't really know whether he's going to play midfield minutes or whether he's going to essentially just replace Michael Walters in the team. We really don't know as of yet. And we don't know what's going to happen with Murphy Reid either, because Murphy Reid seems a very versatile player. And Cooper Simpson as well. He was, both our recent draft picks, Murphy Reid and Cooper Simpson, we got them a lot lower than they're projected to go. So they've got a high ceiling, it seems. It's just dependent on whether we can get to that ceiling. I think Murphy Reid's a very high ceiling player. And as to whether he'll play midfield or whether he'll play in the forward line, amongst other players, I've said this a few times now, but that's going to be what depends on whether we recruit Warner or we recruit Pickett. There is another element to this as well, actually, and that's obviously the Brayshaw re-signing. A lot of people have suggested potentially, if we want to get Warner and Pickett, that if you let Brayshaw go in free agency, the salary cap would definitely free up to get both of them. So it's an option there. Because it's free agency, we'd only get 1 first-round pick for Brayshaw, so we're not getting the value that we want there. Do I think Warner's better than Brayshaw? I think Warner is better than Brayshaw, but as I said, there's no guarantee that dropping a star player into another club with different coaches, players, teammates, a different environment, all that, there's no guarantee they're going to have the same impact. So I'm in the camp of absolutely no. I'd rather Brayshaw re-signs and we don't get Warner. If it came down to one or the other, I'm taking Brayshaw there. And I do think Brayshaw probably will command a bit less than Warner, because Brayshaw, I don't see him getting much more than $1 million. Warner, I can see getting up towards of 1.3, 1.4, 1.5. We'll see where we are. We'll see what kind of pick haul we've got. We'll see whether Brayshaw's re-signed. We'll see whether Reid or Simpson has emerged as a first-team option, and we'll see where Bolton plays. Then we decide who's our priority. So thanks for watching the video, guys. Soon we're going to have a video on who are the players under the most pressure at the club, with certain players that are out of contract, certain players that are struggling to break into the side, players that have attracted interest from elsewhere. Later on, after pre-season, after the Indigenous All-Stars game, I'm going to be looking at possibly creating our best 22 as well after we've established that. But as I said, comment down below whether you'd prefer Warner or Pickett at the club. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.